Well, my name is Brinsley McNamara. Welcome to the Weird Ireland podcast. Today I'm hanging out with Shawna Scott of the
Siopa.
There we go. Yeah, I'm messing up my intro there. I would say more about what you do, what your business is, but I think you're better at doing that than me. So,
yeah.
How would you describe yourself?
I am the smut peddler in chief of Siopa.ie. It's just me here. I don't have employees. But I run Siopa.ie, a multi-award winning health and design focused sex shop. So all the products that I stock are made from body safe materials, and we are very inclusive of all bodies, genders, and sexualities.
Nice. How long have you been running this business for?
It'll be 12 years in December, so like good long while. Yeah,
right,
over a decade.
So like 2012 you started, I guess.
Yeah, it was like just before Christmas 2012, December 17th. I remember the day like we pressed launch on the website. It was very scary.
So you were online the entire time back then?
Yeah, I think like my dream was to open a shop because I really wanted a nice like little shop front window that I could design myself. And then I thought more about it. I'm like, oh, rates and rents in Dublin would have been insane. And then you have to pay for like employees and security and like all this stuff. And like I would probably be tied to the shop 7 days a week, never be able to take a holiday. So I decided like, okay, well, I'll start online and see how it goes. And I much prefer online, and being able to do like events and stuff. It's just given me like a lot more opportunities to do like really cool stuff, because it means that I could take a morning off like today and do like a cool podcast, or like I'm going to be at Electric Picnic in a couple of weeks. So that's going to be fun too.
Oh, groovy. I might, if I'm there, I'll let you know. I might be at EP as well.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to be in the Irish tent.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a like porn Negueliga. So I'm sponsoring prizes for this like contest where they're showing like clips of like 1970s porn and stuff,
mm-hmm.
and they get people up to dub over it in Irish, and we pick the winners and give them like sexy prizes.
Are you an organizer of this, or how recent is this?
I'm just a sponsor. I supply the sex toys. Blahin Deburka is hosting it.
All right, groovy.
Yeah.
And what made you want to start up a sex shop business in the first place?
So I had a vibrator that died on me over, probably 13, 14 years ago. And I loved that thing so much. And so I was doing a bunch of research to find out like what is new in sex tech, and got really, really into my research and was reading all these like blogs from sex toy reviewers and stuff, and discovered that the industry as a whole, like internationally, is largely unregulated. So you can make a sex toy out of any old shite, and it is perfectly legal to do so. And I'm like, well, that's not good.
That sounds dangerous. I don't know.
Yeah. And then like on top of that, I was shopping around in Dublin and trying to find a sex shop that reminded me of the sex shops back home in Seattle, that were very like queer friendly and female friendly and stuff. And I couldn't really find anything. You had like the pinks and purples of Ann Summers, and then like the more kind of like male dominated. Sorry.
Yeah, we can cut that out.
Yeah. And then the more like male dominated spaces. And that's fine. Like they're grand. They serve a purpose, but it just wasn't like suiting me as a customer. I didn't feel like super comfortable in those spaces. So I went home, had like bought my new vibrator at Babeland in Seattle, which is like our big lesbian owned sex shop that was like right around the corner from my college that I dropped out of. And I was just like really blown away by like the level of customer service, the fact that like everyone seemed like really super educated and welcoming and inclusive, and natural light makes a huge difference in a shop. And so I immediately like I got home with my vibrator, and I was like texting my friend Tara, and I'm like, I think I want to open a sex shop. And she was like, I think you need to open a sex shop. And I'm like, right, it's done then. It's decided. That's what I'm going to do. So that was kind of like the first spark of inspiration. And then like I was just, obsessed with that idea, and just kind of did it not on a whim, because it took me a good like year and a half to like properly set it up. But I was like all in on it, and kind of a crazy idea, opening a business in the middle of a recession. But I figured like the only way was up. Like we were in the deepest depths of the recession. There was no going further down than we already had. This was like 2011, 2012 at that stage. So I was really, really pleased with how it was received, because I think there was a lot of skepticism from folks around me. Apart from like my friend Tara, I had a few friends who were like, yes, oh my God. But like there was a lot of people who were like, a sex shop in Ireland. And I was really happy to prove them wrong.
Cool. And like, does it take much of a level of expertise to, run a sex shop, or had you run a business beforehand? And
I had never run a business before. I think if I knew what I know now about like how much work goes into it, I don't think I would have done it. But I was young. I was in my like mid to late 20s. I had a lot more energy back then, and and ambition and everything. And I was like, I want to make this work. I need to make this work. And I think also, my main driver was that there was nothing like that in Ireland at the time, like at all, like completely devoid of shops like the ones that I like, something that I wanted to run. So
yeah. On that note, I mean, like you mentioned just earlier that Seattle, because you're originally from from Washington State, USA. Yeah. How long ago did you move to Ireland?
I moved to Ireland when I was like 19, 20, and then got married very early at 21, and then subsequently divorced a few years later. But it was nice. Like my ex-husband ended up remarrying another American, so he lives in the States and I live here, so we just kind of like swapped countries.
Right.
Nice. Yeah.
Not a bad deal.
Yeah, not a bad deal. Yeah.
Is there? Do you think there's big differences either when you got here or when you started the sex shop business? Like our attitudes towards sex and sex toys in Ireland compared to the USA?
I don't know. Like it's really tough. It's definitely more established in the States. Like, a lot of those shops have been around for years and years and years. Like Babeland started in 93. And so you have like a lot more like established culture, but then like I grew up in a really conservative pocket of the States. So if you're comparing the city of Seattle to Ireland, like, yes. But if you're comparing Puyallup, the town that I grew up in, not really. So I think it kind of depends. And like America is so vast as well. So it really depends on like specifically where you're talking about. I don't think you can talk about like America as a whole compared to Ireland in the same way that you can't like compare different parts of Ireland to Dublin, for example.
That's fair. And how about between like in 12 years of doing this, has attitudes in Ireland changed towards this type of thing?
Oh my God, yeah, massively. Like, wow. I think like when I first started, I had a lot of people coming up to me and being like, I like what you're doing, but I don't need a sex toy personally. And I was like, okay, cool. And then like lockdown hit and suddenly everyone needed a sex toy. It's like anytime there's a pandemic or if it's like particularly rainy, I always joke the day that the clocks go back every year like is a massive day for sales for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because it's getting darker earlier.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it's colder and rainier. And so people are kind of like, anytime like there's a time where people are trapped in their homes, that's when they start buying sex toys. So like my busy season, I mean, partially, well, a big part of it is due to like Christmas and Valentine's. It's like the gift giving season. So it is like, it's very seasonal, like from, I'd say like November 1st to Valentine's Day is like my busiest time.
Right. And do you got any like, particular most common purchases, from the business?
Lubricant.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
I have a lot of customers that like just buy lubricant off me. They've never bought a toy, but like they've been buying lubricant off me for years.
Right.
Which is kind of nice. And I think part of it is like, you mightn't want to like go into your local chemist, especially if you're like living down the country and the pharmacists and stuff. That could be a little bit embarrassing. So like online is a little bit more convenient. Also, I like to think like the lubricants that I stock are a lot better than the ones you get in a chemist. But that's just me.
And like you do postage services to people's like and all over Ireland, I guess.
All over Ireland. Like I use On Post. I've used courier services before, but like On Post are always the most reliable. And now like they're the cheapest. Like all like in the past couple of years, like all the courier services have. I'm just giving you some inside baseball here about my business. All the courier services have like raised their prices because of like petrol prices and like carrying fees and everything. So now like On Post is actually like the cheapest for small businesses and stuff. So it's nice. And like my local post office ladies know me and stuff, and they know what I do and everything. And they're like, oh, you had a busy week this week. Yeah, it's great.
And do you ever have to like, I was thinking that, do you ever have to like conceal what the thing is so that the people receiving on the other side, in case they're like, an easily embarrassed person and they don't want to be opening up like something like that in their house?
Oh yeah, no, like it's all like it's super discreet. Like I tell everybody that everything gets put in either like a plain brown box or like a brown bubble envelope. I don't even put a return address on it. Like the return address, if the post office need to open the box for whatever reason, if it gets damaged or something, like the return address is on the receipt. So I don't even put a return address like on the actual box. It's literally just like your name, your address, and then the On Post sticker in a plain brown box. And so that's like, I think a lot of people come to me for that. They know that I'm going to give a certain level of discretion. Also, a lot of people are getting their stuff sent to UPods now.
What's that?
Do you remember Parcel Motel?
No.
So it was like fair. So like you get these like storage lockers in like different like petrol stations and stuff.
In Ireland, like?
In Ireland.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And you can get them sent there, and then when it gets delivered, you get like texted a code, and then you go and you pop in the little code and your mobile number, and then the locker pops open, and then and then it's nice because it's like a lot of them are like 24-hour service. So if like you're not home and you don't want your sex toys being accidentally sent to your neighbor, just get them sent to like an UPod instead, and like you can go pick it up after work.
Neat. So you do that service too, yeah? Groovy, yeah. What's the most annoying question that somebody asks you when you tell them, like you just meet someone new and you tell them you run a sex shop business?
Like when I first started, I haven't gotten the question in a while, but it's like, oh, do you use all the sex toys yourself? Like I wouldn't have time. Literally wouldn't have. There's not enough hours in the day. But like, yeah, like obviously as someone who runs a sex shop, I use sex toys. I enjoy sex toys. They are fun. But I wouldn't be able to use every single one of them.
Yeah, and I was going to say there, I'll bring it in now that the reason I came down here to make this podcast is because you've got a particular object, a sex toy in your possession of particular interest, if you want to explain what that is.
Yeah, that I have not used, by the way. That's another question I get asked quite a lot is, have I used this one? For reasons we will explain, absolutely not. So the sex toy I have brought you to like see is an example of an ivory Victorian era dildo, right, in a Snow White coffin. So I'll open it up here. So yeah, it has its own like little casket. Podcasting is so like, because it's such a non-visual media and I'm like having to describe this thing, it's a very elongated. Are we going to add photos to the description maybe?
I think we can. I think we should do. Yeah. In fact, I'll make sure to take some by all means. Yeah.
So this is an ivory elephant tusk from an Indian elephant that was hunted, I don't know like what word you describe it, but hunted in the 1840s by some fancy rich person in Ireland who like went off to India to go hunt an elephant in the 1840s, brought the tusk back to Ireland, and then at around the turn of the century during the Boxer Rebellion, I'm not clear if it was him or the son, because there's like a 50-year difference in there, went back over to China to, quote, fight in the Boxer Rebellion. But given how fancy the people are, I don't think that they were probably anywhere near the fighting. But got the tusk carved into a dildo to send back to his lady love in case he got killed in the war. I also question that because I just like I know. I mean, I'm not questioning like where it was carved or that like he was in China, but more that like I think he probably knew he wasn't going to get hurt. And Victorians had a love of gag gifts. And so I
Right.
think this was probably more of like a gag gift that he sent back. That would be my own suspicion. I have no basis to back this up.
Okay, okay. So what can we say for certain about this? Like, how did it come into your possession? This an ivory dildo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this came into my possession. Okay. Oh my God, this is such a long story. So back in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to backtrack here. Back in 2017, this went up for auction. And before it even hit the auction floor, there was like international news about it. They're like, oh my God, an Irish dildo. This is crazy. And so there was a lot of international interest in it. And I was like, I got to put a bid on that thing. But it ended up being sold for like 3,500 or something like that, over $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, look, there was no way I was going to win that. And it ended up getting purchased by an American private collector. And then a couple years, and I just forgotten about it because I was like, okay, well, that's it. It's leaving the country. We're never going to see it again. That really sucks. And then in 2019, a customer emailed me and they were like, hey, could you change the shipping address on my order? Also, I think this might interest you, and sent me a link to an auction house in Cork. And I had pictures of a Victorian dildo. And I was like, that has to be, there's no way there's more than one of those in Ireland. And so like I sent an email off to the auctioneer. I was like, is that the same dildo that went up for auction 2 years ago? And the auctioneer was like, yeah, it's the same one. Basically, what happened was there is an Obama era piece of legislation still on the books that banned the import of hunting trophies without any kind of like paperwork.
Okay.
Because this was pre 1947, it was like 1946 or 1947, they didn't have paperwork attached to hunting trophies until then.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can't prove its provenance, but like because we know that it is from when they say it is, because it stayed in the same family up until the point where it went on to auction in 2017. The family literally found it in, it's one of these like big massive houses, landed gentry houses, and I think they were just trying to like find stuff to sell just to keep up the house. I suspect, the way a lot of these houses do. And they found it through like just rifling through the drawers, like looking for stuff to send off to the auction house, and they found this. It's a well, I mean, I want to say it's a pity that they didn't keep it, but like I'm kind of glad that they didn't.
Yeah.
Because now I get to talk about it, and it's really cool. I think it's a really cool piece of Irish history in the sense of like it's so unique, but also if you think of like the timeline, that was the tusk was hunted in the 1840s, when a lot of people here were starving, and some rich fucker was going off on his grand tour of India to go hunting. I think it kind of says a lot about the wealth disparity and what people were going through back then, and just the fact that like it got used again 50 years later to make a dildo is very interesting. And then also the other cool thing about it, so it comes in this like box with a glass top. So I call it like it
is like a coffin, really.
It is like a Snow White's coffin. But that wasn't made in China. That was made in Ireland. So like he would have sent the dildo home, and then the lady of the house got this display case made for it. Again, just talking about the wealth disparity here, that you could get a custom box made, like a custom wood box with a glass top made for your ivory dildo.
Crazy. I agree. I think it's a crazy, just, fascinating item of, historical significance. Have you ever, tried to send it to a museum or something like that, or do you want to keep it?
I have. So that was the intention when I first purchased it. Like I made it into like a whole thing on Twitter, or I was like this. I went full Indiana Jones, and I was like, it belongs in a museum. And like the day of the auction, I was like, I clearly do not have enough money to like purchase this, but if we all collectively do it, maybe we could get it into a museum. So I got a bunch of donations from people, and we ended up purchasing it for like less than 700 euros. So like less than like a fraction of the price of what it was bought for like 2 years previous. And I immediately started emailing like museums that I wanted to see it in. Like the Chester Beatty Library was at the top of my list. They did not return any of my calls. And then like the National Museum and everything. And I got a message from someone who like works in museums who said like, look, you're probably going to have a tough time if your goal is to get it displayed. There are plenty of museums that will take it off your hands, but they will likely keep it in storage.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to share it with people, you want to make sure that you're putting your item on loan and not gifting it to an actual museum, because they will just put it in storage.
Right.
Okay, grand. So then the goal became like trying to like find a place that I could loan it to. And I wanted to make sure that it was going to be, you know, placed somewhere that would be happy to display it and tell its story. And I wanted to keep it in Ireland. That was the other thing. I got an offer from the Vagina Museum in London, which would have been amazing.
That'd have been really cool, no?
That would have been really cool. Yeah. But I turned them down because I wanted to keep it in Ireland, because I thought it was like, it's such an important Irish artifact. And like, sure, the Brits have everything cool.
Yeah, you could have been very close to selling some of Ireland's cultural heritage to Britain.
Yeah. Can't be doing that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep it till I found a place. And then, a pandemic happened, and suddenly like all the museums were shut. So like I've had it since then, and I kind of just tote it around now and show it to people that way. Like if I go to an event where I think it would be appropriate to like bring the dildo, I might show people to that. I post about it like every now and then on like, I posted about it on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, and I kind of I'm become my own like internet museum to show people, because I think it is important for people to see it. But yeah, I haven't found a museum that will take it and display it.
They do. Do you ever see digital scans they do of artifacts these days? A lot of museums do.
Yes. Do you know Digital Heritage Age?
I might know the name, but tell me more about it.
So, fella named Gary, who's actually, based in Galway as well. Right. He's done 3D digital scans of the dildo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we do have like a 3D scan of it. I think it might be up on the website. I know the original one was. He did a second scan of it. When I moved to Galway, because the first one wasn't as great. So he got better equipment since then, and so like a couple of years ago he did like an updated scan of it.
What are they? So they just do this with art? They're a group like that exactly. They do with artifacts to like digitally preserve them.
Yeah. So like he goes around and he'll digitally scan. It's a lot of like gravestones and things.
Okay.
Things that are kind of exposed to the elements that probably aren't going to be around forever. A lot of like Sheila gigs and stuff.
Groovy. I mean, did you see him doing it by any chance? Does he use some kind of machine or some kind of sensor?
No. It's literally just like a digital SLR. And then he put the dildo on like a Lazy Susan with like just a complete like white background and stuff, and then you just spin it around and try to do it from like every angle. Yeah. And just compile all of the image files. I can't even imagine like how big that file is for the 3D scanning, but yeah.
Neat. And he does Sheila the gigs, that kind of thing, I suppose. Yeah. Is there any around here, do you know?
I think so. I'm not sure. I know they're mostly like most of the examples we have of them are down in the southeast. Yeah, I think like Waterford, Wexford. Yeah. Carlow, Kilkenny, that kind of area.
Maybe so. I know there's do you ever see there's a website, I can't remember the exact name, but the Irish Sheila.
The Sheila Project.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. They've got a map.
Yeah.
Tipperary has like 30 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
A lot of them are really bad nick now.
Yeah. I think the best ones we have are the ones in the museum.
Maybe so. There's some really good ones in Westmeath, actually. Some really good ones there. Really good ones. And just on public view and everything like that. There's one outside Mullingar at the old Topman Church. Some people call it St. Munna's Church.
Yeah.
It's attached to the upper wall of it. That's a really good example. Yeah. And ever heard of a Shawna gig?
Yes, I have. Do they have, I think, was it in France or England there's like a Shawna gig?
There's ones in Ireland.
Is there?
There's one in Westmeath. There's one very close to, not that far from here in a way. There's one very close to Athlone. It's actually like in the driveway of someone's house.
What?
I know, I don't know how. I've actually, by weird chance, met the person who lives there, not near their house whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they said that people come frequently enough to come see it and that kind of thing. And people that, they don't care that people come and see it, know. I think it's cool. So no, there's ones in Ireland. There's just way less than there is Sheila's.
That is like one thing I really love about Ireland that we don't really have a lot of in the States, because again, like Ireland, like we have just such old architecture. Like lads that'll have like ruins of castles in their back garden. They've got like cows living in it. They're like, oh, do you want to go out back and have a look at it? like it's just, we've just, the country is so rich with like ruins and stuff.
It's really it's pretty
so
crazy.
Common. Yeah.
You go, depending on where you are in the country, 5 kilometers at a time, there'll be another one every that amount of distance, pretty much. Yeah, an old destroyed abbey or monastery or graveyard or castle. All that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you got any particular favorite, historical sites of interest like that, or even just weird stuff around this locality here?
Well, I admittedly haven't done as much exploring as I would like to. In Galway, but certainly like when I lived in Sligo for a couple of years, and I lived across the road from an old famine graveyard that had been abandoned, and they'd turned it into a park. Just a tiny little park with like a green space. And so like you'd have people walking their dogs, like I'd walk Gozer out there, and people doing yoga and stuff like over what was essentially I assume like a mass grave. There was only, I think, like 2 or 3 actual like marked graves, and then this massive circular grass area, which I assume was the mass grave. And then off to the side, if you like walk through the woods, which I only did a couple of times because I was a little freaked out by it, is the children's graveyard.
Oh,
yeah.
Children's famine graveyard?
Yes,
or just right?
Yeah. But you have to like go through this kind of like overgrown, mature wood to like get back there. It's very, very like folk horror, witchy vibes, and just, intensely sad. But it's a really interesting space because it backs up to a hospital. Like the hospital mortuary is like on the other side, and then on the front side you have this gate, and the gate has like skulls and stuff like in the iron, like the iron is like shaped into like skulls and stuff, or these like really, really gaunt faces. And then you open the gate and you were met with this art piece that is like a tree, but it's like bent and kind of windswept with no leaves on it. It looks very Tim Burton-esque. So it's like they've really gone down the kind of like dark path of like, you are now in a famine graveyard. But it's like, it's beautiful.
Cool.
Like I'd walk Gozer there every single day.
Gozer's your dog, by the way.
Yes,
let's make that. It's not the big
the
monster
bad guy
thing from Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
I only saw that movie recently for the first time.
Really?
I didn't think it was that good.
I think it's one of those movies, like if you grew up on it, like that was my favorite movie when I was a kid.
It's not a kid's movie though, I realized watching it. It's really like,
it's really, well,
yeah.
I think a lot of the jokes went over my head.
Fair.
My parents tell me that like when I was like 3 or 4, I used to go around, like my favorite line was, "This chick is toast," because it's a Peter Venkman line, and like Peter Venkman to a 4-year-old is like the funniest thing ever.
Is that Bill Murray's character?
That's Bill Murray's character. Yeah. So I was obsessed with that movie, and like quote it often, but like watching it back now as an adult, definitely it is very of its time. It's very like 80s kind of libertarian politics. But I still have a lot of love for it.
And is the 80s that like your favorite kind of time for movies, or do you got any other favorites from back then?
I mean, I don't know if I have like a favorite time for movies. I just like I'm a movie person. I just love like good movie. Well, I went to college. I went to community college, like film department. I wanted to be a film editor when I grew up, but like this was at a time before YouTube, when you couldn't really like make your own opportunities per se. Like you'd have to like move down to LA if you wanted to be in the film industry. And I didn't really fancy moving to LA. I was like, I'm gonna move to Ireland instead. So that was, but like I love films. Like I love horror films are kind of my favorite.
You made reference to folk horror there, so I'm guessing you've seen what's the big ones there? The Wicker Man, the 70s one, The Blood and Satan's Claw,
the Witch.
Which one's that?
That came out like a few years ago. Anya
Taylor-Joy.
That
one. I know the one. Yeah.
The Witch with 2 V's.
Yeah.
the Vivitch. Like the Witch and like Midsummer and stuff. Like
I haven't watched any of the newer stuff like that as much. I'm more into. I'm really biased against new movies. If it looks too new, I don't really like it. If it looks any newer than the 90s, I just puts me off it straight away.
Yeah. Like 80s horror and stuff is like. Got a lot of love for 80s horror.
Ruby.
I'm a big fan of The Thing.
I actually like the 50s one more.
Really?
Yeah, The Thing from Another World.
I've never actually seen the 50s one.
You knew it existed though.
I knew it existed. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that it exists.
Have you ever seen Village of the Damned?
I have the 50s or 60s. Yeah, that one, the English movie.
Yeah, so I saw the 90s one when I was like a kid with Kirstie Alley.
I've never seen that one. I think I vaguely knew it existed.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I haven't seen the 90s one in years. I really want to go back and watch it because I saw the 50s one for the first time a couple years ago. And I was like, oh, the difference between that and the 90s one is like really interesting, just like coming from different political standpoints. Like 50s you would have been scared of like communism, and in the 90s it was like at a point where we were at like intense like economic growth, and comparing the themes of the two I think was like really interesting.
Right. I mean,
you literally had what's your man, Superman.
Like the Superman from the 80s, him?
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves?
Christopher Reeves, yeah. I think that was like one of the, if not the last film before he was paralyzed, one of the last films before he was paralyzed. So it's like you literally have like America's Superman, and then like Kirstie Alley, who was like a major TV star, like in these lead roles about, you know, the other coming in and like taking over America.
Is it good? Is it worth watching?
I think so, from what I remember of it.
Yeah.
There's a scene where the one of the kids is like a toddler in the high chair getting fed and like doesn't like the food that it's being given. And so like forces its mother to like put her hand in boiling water. That is like burned in my head from the time I was like a kid. I was just like, holy crap. I think that was actually one of the first horror films I ever watched.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just because you mentioned Christopher Reeves there, did you ever see the Alfred Hitchcock film Rear Window?
Yeah, I love Rear Window.
I love Rear Window as well. It's not my favorite Hitchcock. It was for a while. It was.
Yeah.
I'd say now I'd give that either to Psycho or The Birds. Tough between, but I love those both. But there's a It's one of the only, or maybe the only film made where Christopher Reeves is paralyzed, is quadriplegic, and it's a remake of Rear Window.
Okay.
So instead of Jimmy Stewart's character has a broken leg, instead he's literally paralyzed in it.
Oh my god!
And I didn't even watch the whole thing. It's literally the saddest movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
Because it's like he's not acting at all. Like it's real. Like he's actually quadriplegic. And
I really want to see that.
yeah,
now.
check me out maybe for that interest. I mean. But that's just because you mentioned it, that's something interesting. Yeah.
I love Rear Window, if only because like I love gossip and I love the idea. This is terrible. I just love like the voyeuristic nature of just like looking into like other people's lives and like seeing what they're and just having this like tableau of all the like different neighbors and like what their lives are like, and then like there's a murder happening, and then of course just like Grace Kelly being Grace Kelly, just flouncing about the place and like gorgeous dresses.
Are you into murder mystery or true crime rather?
I'm not.
You're not.
I think there's ethical issues around like true crime.
Really?
Well, just especially if it's a case where like the victims' families are still alive and stuff. I take a lot of issue with that. And it's funny. Like my mom is obsessed with true crime. Like whenever I go home to the States to visit, it's like we'll watch Dateline in bed together, and that's like kind of like the thing that we do. I don't particularly enjoy it, but like she really doesn't like horror movies, and I'm like, I don't understand why you don't. She's like, oh, it's too gory and icky, and I'm like, but you would rather watch a 2-hour documentary about like a real life, like someone getting murdered and stuff, and like, you know, in a lot of cases brutally murdered. The worse it is, the better for her. And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't understand that. So yeah, I love fictional horror and like horrible things. I don't like them in real life. I'm a soft soul. I think like I listened to a podcast recently. I can't remember who was talking. It was a horror director was talking about how people who are into horror are generally like the biggest scaredy cats. And
I'm like that. I watch like movies. Like keep putting my eyes like this, so I can't see the whole thing. Put my hands over my face, I don't like gore at all. I don't like it at all. I don't like except the really fake looking stuff. Yeah.
Buckets and buckets of blood.
Yeah, that's just funny.
Have you seen Reanimator?
I have seen Reanimator, not in a while now. I saw it in cinema actually. Not in the 80s, just like a
Back
reviewing.
In 1985, we time traveled. Lots of blood.
Have you ever seen Peter Jackson's movies before The Lord of the Rings?
Yes. Yeah. It's been a very long time. I dated a guy in high school who was very into them. Yeah.
Yeah, Brain Dead, I think it's called.
Brain Dead, and then
it has more than one title, I think.
There was another one. What was the one with the sheep?
Oh, I don't remember. I've only seen one of them, and not in a long time.
Yeah. Oh, there was one with like zombie sheep or something. Again, really super gory.
But those are ones that are just like laughable kind of thing. I think it's like it's not at all supposed to be. Yeah. Well, they're pretty disgusting all the same.
Yeah. But yeah, we love a horror comedy.
Yeah. I was saying my mom and my sisters, both of them are obsessed with true crime. Obsessed with true crime. And like, I mean, true crime's around ages. Even in the 90s, you had like forensic detectives and FBI files, and it's all American. It's all American true crime. If you like true crime, that means you like American true crime. Yeah. That's like the biggest genre of it going.
I do have to say, like, apart from like true crime, like murders and rape and stuff like that, I do love like podcasts about like cults and MLMs.
Oh yeah.
I think because
I was listening to one this morning. My first multi-level marketing.
Yes.
I was listening just this morning for the first time. I was listening to a video essay about an MLM, and had to be broken down for me. It was the one with Dexter Lager, is that his name? That's one of the guys who was like the motivational speakers that would like kind of leads the whole thing. Yeah. It seemed to be like the beginning. I didn't get the whole way into it, but it was like the beginning of MLMs in America and around the world as well, I guess.
Yeah. So like I think like Amway started it all.
That's it. It was Amway.
Yeah,
it was Amway. I was listening to it just this morning.
Yeah. When I was a kid, like Amway was a thing that like I don't have like very intense memories of it. Just that like a lot of people were involved in it.
Yeah.
And I remember like my mom coming home from work and being like, oh, someone was trying to sell me Amway.
What is it? Like, do they sell soap or what's it again exactly? It was kind of hard to follow.
Yeah, I think they sell like a lot of different stuff. It was just like, household thing. I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Like, they sell household things, but then it's also a cult, basically. It's just so bizarre sounding.
Yeah, and it like I think Amway was like a lot. It was much more or not as gendered. I think most multi-level marketing nowadays is gendered towards like women, because it's aimed particularly at stay-at-home moms who want to, quote, start their own business so that they can bring in a little income, so that they can work their own hours, that kind of thing. But like a lot of the money just goes back into the MLM, and they do like specifically target like poor areas where there is a high volume of like Christian stay-at-home moms. So a lot of them would be very like Christian oriented. Like a lot of girls that I went to high school with would be involved in like MLMs in one form or another.
So they're kind of like, but do they make money or?
I think if you ever listen to the Dream podcast, they break it down, but I think it's like 1% of 1% kind of like make any money. And then the rest of them like either break even or like lose money. I think a very high percentage, like over 50% of people in particular MLMs actually lose money.
So bizarre. I find it so bizarre. Yeah. God. But where you're from is not that far from Portland, Oregon, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of like between Seattle and Portland. I'm like 2.5 hours away from Portland and like 40 minutes away from Seattle.
There's that phrase. It's like the only thing I know about Portland. Keep Portland weird. Is that it?
Portland weird. Yeah.
Is it weird? What makes it weird? What's it like?
I think like any big city, it's much harder to live there now because everything's being like gentrified and like rents are going up. But Portland, like historically, would have been the place where a lot of like artists and stuff would go. And like a lot of my friends, if they went to art college, would end up in Portland.
Right.
I don't know if that is necessarily the case nowadays because again, like everything's so expensive. But it is like it's, you know, where people would traditionally go to like live a more like bohemian lifestyle. But like Seattle was kind of the same. I think Seattle was just like a bit more expensive.
Right.
But like my best friend from school lived on Capitol Hill, which was like our neighborhood for about 10 years. And then like Amazon started, you know, buying up properties around the area, or like or people who were
Amazon buy property.
Funny that. Like buying up properties, or like Amazon employees would start like buying up properties in the area. It became like the trendy place to live,
right?
And all of the queer people started getting like pushed out. Like Capitol Hill used to be cool as shit. You'd have like all these like punk houses where like people were doing like communal living and stuff, and they'd have like their artist spaces and all that. And like all of those old historical houses were getting like bought up and turned into like Airbnbs and shit.
Yikes.
Yeah. Everywhere. But yeah. It was just such a shame because I do really miss it. But like my family all like they live in Denver now. So that was like kind of a stark contrast going from like Seattle to effectively Trump country. I think Colorado is like a purple state now.
I can't think. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
But Denver is like, it's much more Trumpy than I'm used to. I think like I got like major culture shock the first few times like I went down to Denver, and certainly like where my parents live, which is like way out in the burbs. Like, yeah, it's bleak, lads.
Do you ever hear the do you know the series of books or the series of magazines originally, Weird New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you know about those?
I know that they exist.
Yeah. Well, they started off as originally a zine or a zine. I never know how to say the word.
I think it's zine, short for magazine, isn't it?
Magazine.
Yeah.
What did I say? Did I say zine?
Zine, magazine.
Yeah, magazine. But it started as a zine in the 80s or 90s in specifically New Jersey. They went on to make it a regular 4 times a year periodical, I think. Then it became a book, Weird New Jersey. Then they went on to do a book, Weird, and then insert name of state, and they did it every state.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. That's kind of where I got the name idea for, like, Weird Ireland. Like, but
Yeah.
but where like, is there any weird stuff like that you can think in either like Colorado or Washington or Oregon?
Washington has like loads of weird ones.
Oh yeah. Oh, do you have any like myths? Like, do you have any like cryptids or like Oh God, must be Bigfoot country.
Do we have a cryptid?
Yeah.
We literally have the Sasquatch Festival in Eastern Washington.
What happens
Which is a music festival. It's a music festival.
Okay.
But yeah. Sasquatch is cool. We've got that. We've obviously got the Twilight vampires.
Oh Jesus, yeah, of course. In forks.
Yeah,
I was running.
Knife, fork, spoon. Salad tongs,
cheese grater.
Yeah. I've never been to Forks.
It is a real place. I forget that.
It is a real place. Like, it's on the Washington. Washington's so fucking cool. Like, as a state, like, I have so much love for my home state because, like, you've got almost every single climate apart from like Arctic. And like arid desert, but actually we do have like arid desert in like Eastern Washington in some places. It's just not sandy desert, but like, we have rainforest, like that peninsula area where the vampires are. That's all.
A vampire.
A vampire.
What's that?
Just vampire with a W.
Is that a thing there?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, but like the whole like Olympic Peninsula, like that's all like what is the word? Yeah, it's like it's rainforest, not tropical, but it is like rainforest. And then you have like wet, like the rest of Western Washington is like very like wet and maritime climate, and then you have the Cascade Mountain Range, and then on the other side of that you have like really dry, almost like deserty land, and that's Eastern Washington.
Right. Does any of it look like Ireland?
Yeah, Western Washington would be very like similar to Ireland. That's like I joke with my family that I made a huge mistake because I went from like one rainy climate to literally the exact same thing. Yeah. The only difference is like we still have like a lot of old growth forest in Washington, and the Brits got rid of ours here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a little sparse these days.
Yeah. But it's like similar in a lot of ways. So it does like make me feel like more at home. I think when I first moved here, I used to get like quite homesick. I knew that I didn't ever want to move back to the States. I definitely always felt like much more at home here than I did back there. Cause again, I grew up in like an evangelical like area, and I'm like, I can't go back to that. So I always felt much more at home here. But you miss your friends and family and stuff.
Of course, yeah.
The climate definitely helped. I know it's like rainy and gray and depressing, but like it definitely made me feel more at home.
And can you fly straight back from like Dublin to Seattle or?
Oh my God. Okay, so the flight situation was dire. We didn't get direct flights to Seattle from Dublin till like maybe 10 years ago or something. I'd always have to fly to like New York or Chicago first. And then we didn't get direct flights to Denver until like literally this year.
Right.
So
you can fly direct from Mullingar to Denver, Colorado. I mean, not from Mullingar.
From Mullingar.
You can fly direct.
Mullingar International Airport. From Dublin to Denver. But like the last time I went, the cheapest flight was San Francisco. So like Denver's literally in the smack dab in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
So I had to fly all the way to the West Coast and then backtrack back to Denver. It was like, I think almost like 24 hours of flying. I was so exhausted from like lack of sleep. I was like sick, like nauseous, thought I was going to like throw up from lack of sleep.
Yeesh.
Yeah. Never again.
No, never Denver or Colorado again.
Yeah.
So wait, no, but like, have you ever seen a Sasquatch, or have you ever seen UFOs? Like, it must be crazy for that up there.
as much as I wanted to, like, I think I was one of those kids, like, I really loved the X-Files growing up. And I think, like, 90s being, like, peak UFO, and, like, Washington and Oregon were kind of, like, known for, like, paranormal activity and that kind of thing. I always wanted to see a ghost. I wanted to see a UFO, like, really wanted to see a Sasquatch. Never saw any of them. I think I probably, like, as a kid convinced myself that I had seen a UFO, but, like, probably hadn't. And I think if I ever, like, properly saw a ghost, I would shit myself. But yeah, it was like I was definitely like a spooky kid that was like on the prowl for those things, like probably wanted to do a bit of ghost hunting and stuff, but like
so if they were there, you would have seen them.
Yeah, because I was always like waiting for them.
What fairies? Is there any, like, you know, that side of the world equivalent of a fairy?
Probably. I don't know. Not like there is here, though. Like, certainly, like, not in any kind of, like, major cultural sense where, like, you wouldn't build near a fairy fort or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I think for the most part, like, the only people who believe in, like, fairy folklore stuff will probably be, like, the hippy-dippy types.
Maybe so. And, like, is there any kind of superstition like that from where, you know, from up there, like the whole, like, you won't build in a fairy fort here or that kind of thing?
I don't think so. I mean, like, I think with the Bigfoot stuff, it's more, I mean, because we know that those Bigfoot tapes were faked.
Do we know that?
We do.
Like the one from like I know, I don't believe it's real, but like, do they know who did it? And the one, there's a name for it. That's in California, and that's in like 1967. That's a really old tape.
Yeah. Yeah, like we know that one was faked. I don't think there's anyone that like, well, I say that there's a whole community of people in Washington that believe the earth is flat, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, apart from like proper like conspiracy theory people, but like there's loads of people out in Appalachia that like, you know, really believe in like mimics, and like if you go in the woods and you hear someone say your name, no you didn't.
What I've never heard of this. What's a mimic? I know where Appalachia is. It's like in like, you know, Virginia or this kind of thing.
So I don't want to like pretend like I know anything about like Appalachian like folklore, but like the idea that like there are beings in the woods that like can mimic your voice. But I think you know, that's been debunked. That's actually like corvids that have like the mimicry and stuff, like ravens and stuff.
It's a type of bird that can parrot back what you're saying effectively.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's people that like walk in the woods and they think they hear a person saying like help. and you're not supposed to like, or if you like hear like whistling, like no you didn't, like that kind of thing. But I think like it's the Occam's razors that it's raven, but like according to folklore it's like these you know, mythical creatures, and you're not meant to like respond to them because you will disappear from the woods. Jeez,
I've got to look those up. That's an awesome one. That would be scary though, in the woods hearing help, or just something parrot back what you said.
See, that's the thing. Like I feel like all of the American folklore, like a lot of that would be much more on the East Coast and a lot less like on the West Coast, apart from, you know, obviously like indigenous folklore and like indigenous traditions, which like we were not taught in school because that's like a whole other thing. But a lot more white people folklore on the East Coast.
Right. Yeesh, would you be surprised to hear that there's Bigfoot in Ireland?
Is there a Bigfoot in Ireland?
Well, there's more than one seemingly.
What?
Yeah, for real, yeah. There's I was just looking at this recently.
It's not just a fella with really big feet, is it?
Oh, well, there's those as well. Mine are pretty big, that said. But no, it's I guess all over the world there'd be different variations of Bigfoot. Seemingly in Ireland, and there is communities of Bigfoot hunters in Ireland. There's the Irish Bigfoot Research Group, and there's at least 3 guys in that. And I've heard them detail in the podcast before how there's 2 different kinds of them. One of them's called a wild man. It's like a Neanderthal, and I think they were detailing another one that's kind of like dark, very tall, very skinny thing. You could mistake it for a tree. It looks kind of like its hair kind of mossy. And I've seen in other places talk about it being called a gruagach, so a hairy thing in Irish. And there once you hear about that and then you look into it more, you realize there's way more to be learned about Bigfoot and Ireland than you'd think. There's seemingly there's a thing. I think
why do I have a feeling this is based in Cavan? Why do I think this is a Cavan?
Oh, it's meant to be up around Lough Neagh, Lough Neagh, Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Yep, seemingly a lot around there. Seemingly a lot around anywhere that would have Cavan. Maybe. Yeah, it won't surprise me. Yeah.
I'm like, this has a stink of Cavan about it.
Yeah.
No offense, Cavan. Sorry, we love you.
Yeah. Facts. But no, seemingly they can. They've got an aspect to them called the woo factor, where they're somewhat supernatural beings. So if you're out in the woods and your flashlight starts going and it shouldn't be, there's a new battery, new bulb, whatever. Could be a Bigfoot nearby, could be a Gruagach. Yeah, seemingly there's that aspect to it. There you go now. But apparently that's big for all over the world. It can do supernatural things like that. It's not just a big wild animal. It's also a little bit paranormal.
That's interesting because I feel like the Sasquatch in Washington doesn't have any supernatural powers. He just generally just walks around.
Just a big animal, like ape man.
Just big ape man, very hairy in the Hendersons. Could be friendly, could be not. Probably keep your distance. I think more people are scared of like coyotes and cougars than anything else.
Rightly so. Yeah. But no, because I wanted to ask you about because you're a content creator as well. Like as a business, you're a business owner and you're a content creator. I
try to be. Like I wish I was better at it than I am. I'm terrible at like writing down content creation ideas. Like I think if I was really smart about it, I would have like spreadsheets and stuff.
I've got a spreadsheet, yeah.
Do you?
I do. I made my first ever spreadsheet ever in my life this year. And it's very handy. I don't look at it as often as I should do.
Yeah.
Before that, I just wrote everything down on pieces of paper and just kept them on me for a long time. Yeah.
And it's crazy because like I love a spreadsheet. Like I do my own accounting and like people are like, you can do you can order like an accountancy software to do all that for you. I'm like, nah, I like color coding things. So like I do love a spreadsheet, but I like the idea of like pre-planning content. I don't know why it doesn't I've got like ADHD, so like I'm chasing dopamine. So if I can't chase the dopamine, I'm not going to do it. And there's something about planning content. I kind of like to do it at the spur of the moment, which is terrible. That's a terrible strategy for doing any sort of like content creation.
Pretty much. I mean, I like every video I ever put out, you ever see, I make it on the day. Not that I film it on the day. It could be filmed. Sometimes they're filmed like 2 years ago. And I put them up. But the editing, the script, everything, the research, all an hour before it goes online. Yeah. So no, I really shoot. I've nothing edited. I've nothing prepared right now. Nothing. I'll put one out tomorrow and I'll make it tomorrow. Maybe I'll make it tonight.
But it's also great because like you don't ever show your face. So like I feel like I have to put on like makeup and stuff and put on like a cool outfit. There's like a whole process behind it. I don't know. And it's just like it takes a lot of energy. Maybe I should just take a page out of your book and not have my face in it.
Maybe so. I mean, yeah, maybe give it a go. Yeah, you might have people tagging me in your videos, like, "Oh, rip off Brinsley." Like, I've been tagged in some people's videos, and they've said that kind of thing, and only because whoever it was, the content creator, like, started just filming, would not showing themselves, just pointing at things instead, and then we would literally do that. Yeah, not that I was original. I got my idea from Zoe Bread. Do you know her?
No.
She's a TikToker from England, and she makes what I can only describe as surrealist vlogging videos. She'll do things like she'll go to Ben Nevis, like the highest mountain in the UK, and she'll go with like a health and safety like high vis yoke, and then she'll like do a safety assessment on a mountain, and then she'll walk into a ranger shack or whatever and just start telling them why the mountain's not safe and trying to get her to look at her safety assessment, and they'd be like, "Who are you? Like, why are you here?" Like, it's just this mad stuff like that. But they're really, really quirky. You never see her in it. To this day, you don't know. Nobody knows what she looks like. I doubt her real name's even Zoe.
Yeah.
And she's like 1.2 million followers on TikTok. See,
that's the kind of fame you want.
Yeah.
So the people like aren't gonna like walk up to you on the street. Though I think like if like people know what your voice sounds like, and like you open your mouth, you sound exactly the way you sound.
See, I'm curious because I've had people say the opposite to me. I've had people say like they met me and they were talking to me, and then it came out. I know I don't go around telling people, just like if my buddies around, they'll do it. And and like when somebody figures out or finds out, I'll be like, do I sound like me in the videos? And they're like, no, not at all. Wouldn't have thought it at all.
Oh no, I definitely think you do. Yeah. No, I've had like one or two odd experiences where I've been recognized. Not anything bad. Like everyone was like really super friendly. But like one time I was walking around Jervis in Dublin, and then like a half hour later I was on Twitter and someone was like, oh, I saw Sex Siopa like around the Jervis Center, and I was too embarrassed to say hi. I'm like, please say hi, because what you did is way creepier. Like, don't be following me around. And then
why did they take pictures of you and upload it or something?
No, they didn't take a picture of me, but I was just like, oh God, just say hi next time for the love of God. Because then it's like you're thinking about like, okay, I think like it's the being perceived in your natural state when you're just like wearing sweatpants and like a hoodie, and like I feel like my face looks weird when I'm not on. My relaxed face is just like and if people are watching me, I'm like, oh, I just don't want to be like perceived out in public when I'm not, like, my head isn't in that space. And then the other time was like, I think a couple of weeks after I got Gozer. I had just moved to Sligo like a couple months previous, and I was out walking him close to my house, and I had sunglasses on because it was sunny, and someone was like, oh my God, are you Shawna from Sex Siopa? I'm like, we are literally in the middle of Sligo. How? And it was two girls, and they were like, oh, we recognized you from your dog. Because I had just gotten him like a couple weeks previous. So I was just like, I had taken loads of pictures of my dog and uploading it onto like my Sex Siopa page.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I haven't had any of that yet, thank God. Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of fame where it's like, people appreciate what you're doing. They like really like what you're doing, and but they don't recognize you. Like, that's cool. Like that's what I would love. But I made the commitment to be the face of my business, and unfortunately I have to stick with that now.
Yeah, well, I think you do a great job doing it, in all honesty.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mutual Appreciation Society here. Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm wrecked.
Do you want another cup of coffee?
Oh, if I could, that'd be amazing, actually. Yeah,
we got it. We got a bit of
time. Awesome. I don't even need water much in. I drink crazy strong stuff. I drink stuff that makes no sense how strong it is.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm one of those guys. Yeah. What were we talking about? Were we giving funny anecdotes, or?
We were, but I can't remember where we stopped recording.
What's your funniest anecdote?
Oh, God, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah. Well, it's either you on the spot or me on the spot. So, I drew first. So.
Oh. This is terrible.
Well, look, before you finish that thought, I think we're going to round off this podcast.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Sean, it's genuinely been a pleasure, like, coming down here and talking about your ivory dildo and your business and yourself and Folkar. We must talk about that more.
Yeah. Oh my God! Like, thank you for coming all the way out to Galway.
I know, right? I mean, like, it was just such a beautiful morning. It would have been a shame for me to stay in the bed longer, which I just would have really.
Of a Tuesday, yeah.
Of a Tuesday, indeed. Indeed. So anyways, you're Shawna Scott, and
I'm Shawna Scott.
You're how did you describe yourself?
I am the smut peddler in chief of sexsiopa.ie. Please come buy your sex toys from me.
Right. And you're going to be doing a little bit of this is probably not going to come up for Electric Picnic, but
yeah.
Fuck it might.
But it could do.
Yeah.
If any of you are around Electric Picnic on the Saturday, I'm going to be in, is it Pobble na Gaeilge?
Is it the Irish speaking section?
The Irish, the Irish tent.
Cool.
We're doing Porn as Gaeilge, so you can come around, and I'm like providing spot prizes and like the big prizes for people who will do the best dubbing over of like 1970s porno clips. As Gaeilge. Yeah.
Anyways, I've not actually had to do this yet, so what's my outro? Because it's always, thanks for watching Season Runs Weird Ireland. Right, that's all for today. That's all for today's show, folks. Tune in next week. We're going to be I can do this later. Thanks for listening, and let's see. Thanks for listening, and see you somewhere else.
Thanks for listening, and see you somewhere else in Weird Ireland or on Weird Ireland online or I don't
podcast.
know,
I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go for thanks for listening, and see you somewhere else in the Weird Ireland podcast. Fairness, I could have done this at home, like I didn't do it here, but I'm still working out that detail.